And welcome to episode 23 of Throwing Bagels Podcast. I am Chris Stagos. I'm joined, as always, by Kevin Mooney. Kevin, how are you?
I'm great. Chris, how are you?
Doing excellent. Jason Hamo, how are you?
Trying to get raccoons out of my backyard, Chris.
Oh, yeah. Watch out for those raccoons, man. They'll come and eat your stuff. Like all of it.
All of it.
All of it. We are joined by two guests tonight. We have two guests on our show today, this episode, and they are returning guests. We have a very special hockey edition of Throwing Bagels Podcast. Without further ado, we bring in Joe Yerdon and Alex Russo. And Joe Yerdon, of course, noted hockey Substack, co-host of Maintenance Day, and a Bleacher Report contributor. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. I'm doing great, guys. It's always nice to be reunited with you fellas. So yeah,
Yes.
We're doing good.
We appreciate you coming on. And of course, we have Alex Russo as well tonight, hockey expert and content programmer for Bleacher Report Open Ice. Alex joined us halfway through the Stanley Cup Finals last time. Alex, how are you?
Happy to be here. Happy to be back with y'all, and happy for the season to finally start soon.
Yeah.
Very soon, just around the corner, So before we do get into our, and Joe, you do cover the Buffalo Sabres. Alex, you cover the NHL in general, but you're a big Rangers fan. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the quote unquote resignation of Mike Babcock that occurred just over the weekend. Joe, we'll start with you.
Okay. I didn't want to step on Alex's toes if she wanted to start there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Listen, always happy to defer here. I think this is just proof that sometimes believe what everybody's telling you. Like, just kind of believe where everything's coming from, because none of the stories that came out of Toronto from some of the guys that were disgruntled seemed to be fabricated. And there was enough stories from guys that used to play for Babs in Detroit where it was like, well, this might not be the best guy in the world. I mean, just look up the stories about him and Johan Franzen from back in the day, where Franzen, came up with had a horrible concussion history, and Babcock was just kind of like, yeah, well, what are you going to do? Sometimes the guy shows you who he is, and that's what it is. And that this whole thing came apart because of Paul Bissonnette and the Spit and Chicklets guys, getting a hold of a guy in the team, or a guy reaching out to them saying like, hey, this guy's being a bit of a creep and a weirdo. You might want to look into this. That this whole thing just blows up. It's pretty amazing, honestly, considering where it started from and where it all kind of mushroom cloud to. It's fascinating. My interactions with Babs in the past have been pretty good, but like, that's a small, tiny fraction of what you get to know of somebody, especially being in the media. They're going to show us the best side, or I can't say that. Torts doesn't usually show us the best side of himself too often, but most of these guys are going to show you, the best part of them when it comes down to it. But man, this is pretty wild. He finishes 0-0 as a Blue Jackets head coach, which I don't know, pretty good.
And he's the second head coach for the Blue Jackets to finish without a win in his coaching career for the Blue Jackets as well.
Pretty impressive, honestly, to have no decisions in your coaching career for a team.
Really
That's I don't know, man. It's neither good nor bad. It's the ultimate purgatory.
Yeah, I think I saw today the Blue Jackets management put out a post on Instagram, something to the effect of, clearly, we were wrong. I don't know if they phrased it quite like that, but that was the sentiment. And to Joe's point, sometimes you really just have to listen to what you're hearing. It's a terrible way to go out, but clearly he was doing something that was wrong and unacceptable, and promotes a negative culture within the sport and within that team. And they have too much to be excited about with Fantilli, and they're an up and coming team. They shouldn't have to be worried about that.
And especially in today's day and age, right? Like today's day and age, anything's coming out. Anything and everything that you've done at some point in your career, this isn't 1975 anymore, right? 1982. Anything you've done in your career, it's coming out. It's going to get out at some point, and you will lose your job. It's pretty much a guarantee at this point, I feel like.
Is the era of the tyrant as head coach, is that era over at this point?
I gotta think it is, right? I mean, guys, it's such a different time now in hockey where like those old hard ass coaches just don't have a lot of shelf life. I mean, yeah, had guys this summer like basically trying to run screaming from Calgary, trying to get out of there. The last couple summers, I mean, Gaudreau, leaves. He said he wanted to come back east. He's a Jersey guy, goes and signs with Columbus. Okay, it's close to Jersey, closer to Jersey than Calgary is, I guess, but in Columbus. But like, he takes off to there. Noah Hannafin says he doesn't want to sign an extension to Calgary. Elias Lindholm was talking like maybe he doesn't want to stick around. Like all these guys are like fleeing, and Daryl Sutter was the head coach, and that guy he won 2 Stanley Cups, not even within like the last 15 years. But yeah, guys were just kind of like, I don't know, man, this guy's a drag. He's a total old, hard ass guy. Looks like Sam the Eagle the Muppet, and we can't deal with this anymore. Like this stuff's getting old, and you got to be able to identify with the players. And it's the classic the league's getting younger thing. And if you're not able to identify with these young guys now, or like coach them to a style that they like to play, you ain't gonna last too long unless you're John Tortorella, I guess. But Torts helps some guys and makes it worse for others.
Yeah, but he loses it eventually also, right?
Yeah.
He lasts like 3 years at a place, then he's gone. So
yeah, you're not wrong.
I feel like it's like that in every sport nowadays. I feel like the NHL is the last of the Mohicans, kind of, to like let the old guard go type thing, right? Like the old coaches, like NBA, NFL, right? The younger coaches, you gotta work with the players type thing. You gotta be a player's coach. You can't. Right. NHL is the last one, I feel like, that's really kept those old school coaches around.
Yeah. I mean, but I think the NFL still kind of falls in that category because it's that like military mentality, like, we're going to war every Sunday type of thing. So I don't know, but your point does stand, like that. The league is getting younger with the NFL, but yeah, all that nonsense is kind of getting filtered out.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I mean, geez, we don't have to go back too far. I mean, we think of like Mike Keenan, who was just a complete, hard ass that every player hated. I mean, even guys that, even players that like maybe people now don't really care for, like a Jeremy Roenick, was just kind of like, man, this guy sucked out loud. What a piece of trash he was. And he just like he united the players by everybody hating him, which I guess there is some value in that if it turns into results, but it's a pretty quick way to lose the entire room and have absolutely nobody playing for you if that's the way it's going to be. And for me, like, I'm totally okay with bad coaches who are bad people getting swept out. I'm fine with that, but it's such a sea change in the NHL where we're not very far removed from so many of these hard ass guys being all across the league to like basically being down to one or two left, everywhere else. And they're basically gone everywhere else.
Yeah, it's one of those things where once you lose the locker room, your time is done. I remember seeing it with Alain Vigneault. I mean, I felt like he lost the locker room pretty quickly after his final season, and everybody knew like he's out at this point. And I hate to say that probably the same thing happens with Gallant, but when you blow 2 consecutive, I mean, obviously different seasons, but when you blow 2 consecutive 2-0 leads in a series, you've lost the locker room. Like, you did something wrong. And I don't think anybody hated Gallant. I think he was actually pretty much as much a player's coach as you're going to get, but it's that fine line that you're talking about where it's, you have to have results, but people have to like you, but it has to fit their playing style, but you have to be part of the community. Like, it's just so much. Like, honestly, I have so much respect for coaches that know how to do it, because it just takes a lot.
We did give Alex and Joe some homework to rank the 4 New York area teams as far as how successful they'll be. We'll get to that in just a moment. But Joe, given that you covered the Sabres about a month ago, the voice of the Sabres, Rick Jeanneret, passed away. What was your experience like working with RJ, and just how much did he mean to the city of Buffalo?
Using I know like the term icon gets thrown around quite a bit for anybody who's been around a long time or has spent a lot of time in a place, and you start, you get very attached to those guys. The term applies perfectly to RJ. I mean, he became the voice of the team on radio. I think this thing was on radio or television, 1971. Almost right off the hop with Buffalo, and for 50 years he was the voice of the Sabres, and to be a play-by-play guy to have a job that long is ridiculous nowadays. I mean, the guy I kept comparing him to was Ernie Harwell with the Detroit Tigers in baseball, and even Ernie got kind of the bum's rush out of there from what Bo Schembechler, I think, when he was running the Tigers, and everybody learned very quickly, you don't do that to somebody who's the voice of a team and of generations. And that's what Rick was with the Sabres. And fortunately, I mean, he didn't have to get pushed out like those guys. He kept rolling, and he's as good as always. And it was really interesting listening to guys like anybody who was his color analyst, whether it was it was Rob Ray or anybody who worked along with Danny Gare, any of these guys through the years that worked next to him, and how they felt a lot of pressure having to be on top of their game, because Rick didn't work with notes. He didn't use notes for the broadcast. He just knew everything off the top of his head, knew all of it inside and out. And if the color guy wasn't on top of his game, Rick wouldn't chew him out on the air or anything like that. But as soon as the mic went off, it was like, hey man, get on it. Like you gotta be better than that. And that's like an old school kind of perfectionist in broadcasting, where no matter what, the end product is going to be great and it's going to be perfect. But like behind the scenes, you better be on your jam, or else you're going to be out of a gig pretty soon. But he was just such a kind guy, such a funny guy, and he commanded respect. Like I shared a story on notedhockey.com about one of my first road trips while writing for The Athletic was up in Montreal, and I was kind of sticking close to Dan Dunleavy, who was working as like the ringside reporter for broadcast for the Sabres. And we walk into the meal room up there, and Rick waves me, Joe, come on over here. And I was like, oh boy, like this is like the president tapping you to come sit down with him at dinner. And it's just Rick just hanging out and chatting and just being part of the just doing his thing, just being Rick. And you got Razor sitting, Rob Ray sitting next to him, just pouring over notes, going over everything, making sure he's on top of his stuff, because Rob gets a lot of crap, but like he studies a ton. Like he just studies everything inside out and backwards. So he's on his stuff, and I give him a lot of credit for doing that. But man, Rick was just such an easygoing guy. And they held a very nice ceremony for him in Buffalo, kind of like a wake, but like, it's just for everybody there to come in and tell stories, players, broadcasters alike. And I joked that the only downside was that they didn't have enough beer for everybody in attendance, because that's the way Rick would have wanted it. If you're going to sit around and tell stories about Rick and have fun with it, you gotta have a few cold ones in hand.
Yeah. That's really sweet what Buffalo did for them. I actually saw something the other day. I think right outside of KeyBank Center, there's a place called Perry Street. And they're trying to turn a section of it into like RJ Way.
Yep.
And I think, and I saw something that said they're actually going to have a ceremony about that when the Sabres host the Rangers for their home opener this season. That's pretty cool of them. Yeah,
it's gonna be a very emotional opening night in Buffalo, because they're gonna do that before the game at some point, before everybody gets in the arena. And then his wife and I think his sons are gonna be at the game, and there's gonna be tears, there's gonna be a lot of that, but it's gonna be a lot of cheers for RJ, and the team's gonna be pumped up. The players, listen, there's about a 50-60 year difference in the ages of the players now and RJ, even for somebody as quote unquote old as Kyle Opozo. I mean, there's still like a 45 year difference in age there, but those guys loved him. They absolutely loved him. They respected everything about him and the history that he represented for the Sabres. And I mean, they were so giddy to win the game for him in his last game that he called for Buffalo. And it was I think it was Casey Middlestat scoring the game winner, and they brought Rick out on the ice afterwards to get a picture with him. Like everything about it was just, those guys really, it's a weird thing, because the Sabres used to be kind of sour to be around in the cover and whatnot. These guys love everything about being a Buffalo Sabre and being in Buffalo. And RJ was a big part of that, because he was living history for them. Like he touched every portion of the franchise, and they really respected everything that he was able to do for them.
Let's take a look at your thoughts, both of you, about how the 4 New York area teams are going to do. So the Sabres, Rangers, Devils, Islanders. Just a quick recap of how things ended up last year. The Sabres 1 point out of a playoff spot. They finished tied with the Pens, right, at 91 points, one back of Florida, who, as we all know, went pretty far last year. So Buffalo just missing, and we kind of already know the Devils beat the Rangers in 7, fell to Carolina in 5 in the next round. So we already know where the Rangers wound up. The Islanders lost to Carolina in the first round in 6 games. So we'll start with who's most likely to be successful this year among those 4 teams. I'm kind of thinking there might be a consensus, but we'll see how it plays out. So Alex, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
I hate that I have to give you my honest opinion right now. But the Devils are very clearly the up and coming team of the Metro, the East, the league. Obviously generational talent, and I don't use that term lightly, but it's the truth. With Jack Hughes and his brother Luke coming in this season, different players, different positions, but something about those genetics is clearly making good hockey players out of everybody there. And they're lucky enough to be in that pool twice and getting both of those players. So they're going to have a lot of talent on their roster for many years to come. And Hughes kind of masks the other talent they have there as well. You know, Nico Hischier and Dougie Hamilton. I think BR today, we did a post about like best defenseman in the league. And I'm pretty sure Hamilton came in at like number 5 or something. Like they have so many things going for them right now, and their culture is great. I don't know how much you guys follow their Twitter account or their Instagram, but they just have such a unique way of presenting themselves to their fans, to their opponents. I mean, when they win games, they're not shy to be cocky about it, whether that's with what they're saying or how they're posting. And honestly, they have the right to be when they're doing that well. So I have them at number 1. Probably going to win the Metro this year. Really don't want to say that out loud again, so please remember that I said that. And I think second to them is the Rangers. I like, objectively speaking, I still do think that the Rangers have their window open. They have additions that they brought in this off season, like Jonathan Quick, which I had very mixed feelings about, obviously. Broke my heart, but you know, maybe he'll win a cup with us and then it'll be different. I won't feel that way. Hopeful speaking. But the addition of him and Blake Wheeler, I think the Rangers still have a lot going for them, but they're not as young as they used to be. And trying to rebuild a team in 2 years was a miracle in and of itself when they did it. And I don't know that that's something they can necessarily pull off again. So they're going to have to do something with the window that they currently have. Otherwise, you know, it'll be a while before I get excited for October again, which will be sad. So, and then closely after that, the Sabres, like you said, were 1 point out of a wild card spot, and I can't see a way in which they missed the playoffs this year. And Joe spoke to it earlier. They have a really good culture in that locker room. I could be wrong about the player, but I think it was Devon Levy. Somebody had said that when they were coming into the locker room, they just immediately knew, like, obviously they had a decision between different teams and they just immediately knew with the Sabres, this is where I want to be. I think it was Levy. I could be wrong. But I think, you know, between Tage Thompson, the human highlight reel, and Dylan Cousins and whoever else they have, they're stacked, and they needed some experience maybe, but I don't think there's a way they missed the playoffs this year. And then obviously in last place of the Metro is, or, you know, like the general area, the Islanders. And this makes me happy because what do the Islanders have going for them right now? Somebody please tell me. I'm not even going to say too much. Just somebody please inform me what the Islanders are doing right now. That's so great. I feel like they're at a standstill right now. They didn't make that many offseason moves. Bo Horvat was okay for them at the very most. He was pretty good the first couple of games. They got him, and then I don't know what happened after that. They obviously, they made the playoffs, but not getting out of the first round. And I feel like they were kind of lucky to be there to begin with. So those are my thoughts.
To answer your question about do we follow the Devils accounts, and no, because screw them, because of the Devils.
And to be fair, they still don't get anyone to show up to their games anyway.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter.
And right. And the Islanders have a nice arena. Like, that's maybe the only cool thing they've got going on.
Lou Lamoriello, right?
That's why I haven't added anybody, because Lou Lamoriello's in charge.
Listen, you won't catch me saying anything bad about Lou because he knows where to bury the bodies. All right, that's
true.
That's what I've learned about Lou over the years. No, it's not that I'm copying off of Alex's notes here, but my four line up the same exact way. The Devils are gonna be a beast. I
hate that. I hate that you guys are saying that so much.
Listen, I get it, and I'm as old school of a Devils hater as anybody because they single-handedly just tried to destroy the NHL for the better part of 10, 15 years in the late 90s, 2000s.
Oh, God.
Because Jesus,
it all started at the Albany River Rats, Joe.
You know what? Yes and no. No, that all started because of Jacques Lemaire. Let's be Jacques and Lou were the gruesome twosome may help in making that happen. But I can blame my Red Wings for not getting the job done in '95 to help prevent that from happening. At least the Rangers took care of business in '94 to keep to stave the Devils off for at least for a year. But this Devils team could not be more polar opposite than those slogfest, loser. I hate them teams. I say that with a smile and a nod, but like also lots of hard memories. Jack Hughes is incredible. He sure is one of the best two-way players in the league. Dougie Hamilton's maybe the most underappreciated defenseman in the NHL. They added Tyler Toffoli in the offseason, which not gonna lie, gonna be interested to see what he does away from Daryl Sutter, because he's the one guy who seemed to be able to play well and score for him, going back to LA and with Calgary. But still an unbelievable addition. They added Timo Meier last season and then extended him. Jesper Bratt might be one of the most underrated forwards in the NHL because he just scores points and he's really good with possession. Luke Hughes is going to be a lot of fun to watch. John Marino became a great defenseman again in New Jersey. The one thing that might hold him back is goaltending, but honestly, they could score. This team might score 5-6 goals a game, and who cares at that point? Vanacek can give up 4 a game and grant Fuhrer's way to a Stanley Cup with the way that they're set up. I love the way the Devils are set up. Them and Carolina are going to be fighting each other, fist fighting each other all season. The Rangers are going to be right there too. I like the addition of Blake Wheeler. I think that's a really smooth veteran add. He's still a very good player. I don't care that he's in his mid-30s. This dude can still play. He can still score. And, whatever happened in Winnipeg there with Rick Bowness, I'm glad we don't have to talk about the Jets, because that's a giant conversation to have about what a disaster that's setting up to be there. But I love those ads. I think Shesterkin's going to have a bounce back season. Not that he was bad last year, just I think he's going to be better. Panarin, I think, took having a very bad playoffs to heart. I mean, he shaved his head and all that stuff. So had to get the right. So I mean, I think Panarin's going to have a nice bounce back year. I love Zibanejad. I love the way that team's made up. Kreider is such a pain in the ass for everybody down by the goal. So he can get it done. Adam Fox is awesome. That dude is just absolute lights out dynamite. He's so good. Sabres are an easy number 3 for me, which is kind of tough. Or 3, yeah, 3, because they're gonna be better. They have to be a playoff team this year. There's not much leeway there. I mean, they missed the postseason, and if they missed the postseason because they didn't get 102 points. Like if it takes 100, if it takes a ton of points to get to the postseason, they don't get there, then that might be semi-tolerable. But if it takes 88 to get to the postseason, they finish with 87, then they're that's a huge disaster for everybody, because this has been everything that they've been doing the last few years has been building to now. They should have made the playoffs last year. And listen, if they beat Florida that game towards the end of the season, that changes the entire thing, and then they make the playoffs, and then who knows what happens from there.
No,
But
well, then the Sabres go to the Stanley Cup Finals instead of Florida.
I mean, that's logic, right? That's just
That's
normal
what
logic.
I mean, that's the way I think about
Only
it.
sports work like that.
Right.
41-year-old Craig Anderson takes the Sabres to the Stanley Cup final. Of course, that's exactly how it goes. But they have there's too much young talent there, and they're gonna add. There's gonna be at least one more young guy that's gonna make the lineup this year. Little nervous about Matt Savoy. He got injured in the prospects game tonight, so we'll see what happens there. He's going to miss the beginning part of camp.
That breaking news, Joe?
It's sort of slightly, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it might be old news by the time this pod goes up, but I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, he got banged up. They took him out of the game, so we'll see what happens there. He was looking awesome. He's going to be awesome when he's ready to play. Yuri Kulik's awesome. Zach Benson's going to be an incredible player. I can't believe they got him in the draft. Absolutely cannot believe he fell to them in the draft. So when he's ready to go, I mean, hell, he might make a case to make the team this year. I don't think he's gonna, but they got so many other young guys. Isaac Rosane, incredible. Darlene is just an unbelievably impressive defenseman. And Owen Power, we got a taste of it last year. We're going to see a lot more from him this season. And it all hinges on the goaltending. And if Devin Levi's the guy, if he really is the Jedi Master, he's gonna carry them very far. The idea for me is that he's gonna light a fire under Luukkonen, because I still think Luukkonen can be a good goalie. But if Levi's the guy that we've seen the glimpses, we saw it last season. We saw how good he can be. If he's the guy for real, Buffalo's going to be a real big pain for everybody in the East. They're going to do really well. And the Isles, listen, I am ready to dunk on the Isles all day with you guys, because I don't get what they're doing. I don't understand anything that they've done. They gave long-term contracts to like half of their, mid-level players this past season. I get the trade for Horvat, understand it, love it. That's super good. But, trading for a guy having a career year it's also in a contract year. It's a little dicey. It's a little tough. Give him 8 years and a lot of money. It's a little awkward, but I mean, like, they gave out 8-year deals or like 7-year deals for like Pierre Engvall and Scott Mayfield, and like a 4-year deal for Varlamov. Like, what? To back up Sorokin?
They already had another goalie.
Right. Well, I mean, the goalie they have is maybe one of the best in the league. Sorokin's awesome. Jesus, he's good. But Lou's trying to do it mid-90s style with a team that has guys that want to run, Barzal, throwing a horse collar around Barzal and telling him like try to not do what makes him good is insane. At least Brock Nelson's become a goal scorer. That's nice. Anders Lee, can he stay healthy? I know he's like a multi-sport star, I guess. So like whatever, but I don't know, man. I don't like the vibes around the Isles, just seem all kinds of wrong for me, but maybe that's just Long Island. Maybe that's just what comes from that. I don't know.
Well, Alex and Joe, America called me. And America wants to know one thing. Who are the Stanley Cup favorites?
Oh,
Alex,
crap.
we'll start with you.
So I think the obvious answer might be a healthy Colorado team, or maybe even the Panthers, considering the magic that they pulled off last season. And while obviously I will remain hopeful in my Rangers, I say as if I own the organization. People hate when I say my, but like, it's just, I am going to go with a little bit of a wild card. It came down to two teams for me. It was between Dallas and Edmonton. And I just have this feeling that the cup's going to go back to Canada. Edmonton had really, I realize it's a little bit of a wild take, but Edmonton had a really strong season. McDavid was putting up Gretzky style numbers.
He's okay.
He's
all right.
McDavid, who? He was so good that I loved being on nights where the Oilers played just to watch him. And I'm not normally I just want to watch this player type of person, but he's that good. And I really felt that after their second round exit, they had a little bit of that unfinished business in them, where they felt like, hit between McDavid and Draisaitl and just all those guys that don't get enough credit because of that dynamic duo, they seemed hungry and they seemed angry, and they knew, I think, after that, if they didn't win next season, it was going to start becoming a little bit more complicated for them moving forward. And they also have the pressure of like Canada wanting a cup back. And I'm sorry to Toronto, but I don't see it happening. I'm sorry. I know they got over the hurdle. They're all excited. But when that happens in the second round, the way it did, the way that went down, what are you exactly excited about? I don't see it. And I don't really see it for the other Canadian teams as well. There's a fire sale going on in Calgary. Vancouver is like, they were getting decent at best. They obviously went through a lot of changes. Winnipeg, not going to say anything else. Montreal's okay. And Toronto is, they have their talent, but I don't see it happening for them. But I just have this feeling the cup's going back to Canada. And if McDavid has another Gretzky style season, I could very easily see them getting over that hurdle, because from my perspective, their second round exit had a lot more to do with running out of steam than not having enough talent. And I could see them going very far. So I'm going to go with them. And as my second like backup option, I'm going to say Dallas, but, and I promise I'm not just saying that because of the Cowboys. There.
You got a lot more guts than I do, Alex. I can't buy into the Oilers at all. They feel like a team that is just destined to just fall short all the time. And it's very hard to deny McDavid. He's just he's friggin' awesome. He absolutely rules. Leon Draisaitl's incredible to watch too. To me, they're a really not deep team. I'm rooting for Connor Brown to have a nice comeback season there. I have a complicated relationship with Evander Kane, so I'll leave it at that. I love Evan Bouchard on defense there. I think Stuart Skinner's had a great rookie season. Oilers goalies are just like doomed forever, it seems like. So Edmonton's going to be a really good regular season team, but it's really hard for me to steer away from Vegas again. Vegas showed me and it wasn't just the playoff run last season. The playoff run was really impressive. Almost all season, they were incredible. They ran into some pretty hard injury problems midway through the year. Mark Stone gets put on LTIR, which was kind of convenient salary speaking wise, but Eichel missed some games with some injury problems there, and they just kept finding ways to grind through it and get through it. And no matter how many guys they had hurt, the guys came back, and when they came back, they were twice as good as they were before they went out, and it showed in the playoffs. I'm going to be really curious about Aiden Hill in goal, if that was a real like awakening for him during the playoffs, or if maybe it's going to be Logan Thompson's show again at some point there. But to me, that just means they're pretty set in goal. I love Vegas. I love Dallas too. I think Dallas to me is the team with the chip on their shoulder. After losing to Vegas in the West Final, another year of Wyatt Thompson being better. Jason Robertson's an incredible player. What a player he is. Joe Pavelski never gets old. That dude could be 55. He'll be scoring 40 goals a season. It's crazy. He's so good. And I think I want to see a more consistent season out of Jake Ottinger, but he showed a lot last year in goal that he can handle. And Miro Heiskanen is just a stud defenseman. He's just so good. Dallas Vegas in the West Final again just seems like destiny. And whoever wins that's going to win the cup to me, because I think the East is such a slaughter fest with everybody. No, whoever comes through in that top 8, 1v8 is going to be an awful matchup for whether it's Carolina or Jersey or Toronto or Tampa or whoever. Boston. Yeah. And Boston can drop 20 points from what they did last year and still finish first in the East. I mean, it helps when you put up it helps when you put up 135 points in the regular season, but like,
and then choke in the playoffs.
But they choked.
Right. But like everybody in the East, whoever comes through, it's gonna just be nasty, and it's gonna make everybody scream for the 1 through 8 playoffs again, as opposed to this half-ass divisional thing that they've been doing the last few years. But man, oh man, I just Carolina, Jersey, Ranger. Like these are just teams that in my mind are 100-point teams. Carolina, Jersey, Rangers, Tampa, Boston. I still think Boston's a 100-point team. Toronto, Buffalo could be a 100-point team. Florida could be a 100-point team. I like just the Atlantic Division alone could be absolutely murder, because the only team that'll be bad is Montreal, and they're going to be a pain in the ass to everybody because they're stupid young. Everybody's focused on Buffalo being like the new young hotness right now. Montreal's going to be right on their heels within the next year or two because they've got a ton of stars waiting, like a ton of young players on the way up. And if Slavkovsky blows up this season, that changes them up a little bit because they're going to be just teaming over with young, speedy talent. St. Louis, we talked about how like nasty of a coach Babcock and those guys are. St. Louis is like out of like the Don Granato fun coach mode where he just gets it with the players love him and they just want to play. And Marty's just kind of like, yeah, man, just go skate, score. I don't care. Go do your thing. So the East is just going to be so wicked, and teams are just going to get the snot beat out of them before the finals. Not to say that the West is easy, but I keep looking at that Central Division and going, well, it's Dallas and Colorado, and like, who gives a crap about the rest of the teams because nobody else stands a chance.
Well, we do have to ask, because I don't think Chris, Jason, I don't know if we did this with Joe when we had him on the first time, because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. I think it was
episode 2.
Yeah, it was episode 2. But Joe went to SUNY Oswego with the three of us, and Alex is a SUNY Cortland grad, so that's close enough. But Joe, we have to ask you, what was your favorite on-campus food at Oswego and your favorite off-campus food?
And chicken patty day. What was your chicken patty like?
So controversy here. I wasn't a big chicken patty guy.
Whoa!
I know.
You're not allowed on the show anymore.
Listen, I'm gonna go out with a bang then. No, my one of my roommates, Justin Vancourt, was a big. He was enough of a chicken patty fan that it made up for my lack of being one. He wrote sonnets about chicken patties. So
wow,
he may have even written a song about it. It's very possible he wrote a song about chicken patties.
He had like 4 chicken patties per visit.
Listen, man, it's
a big dude. So
growing boy, 6'7", that's a lot. That's a lot of space for some chicken patties. But no, I went the other way. I was a chicken tenders guy. Tenders day, which I guess should have been like the premonition that I'd wind up in Buffalo at some point, but the chicken tenders were definitely much more my jam. And when they had like when they started doing late night, which was maybe the smartest thing they ever did, was like, hey, let's open a dining hall for you crazies that are up studying or like working places or whatever,
or playing video games.
That's also studying. I mean, that's studying, the advances in 64-bit graphics. Listen,
right.
Dating ourselves on that one. Like N64, PS1. Remember those? Yeah, you can buy them for $50 at some store now. But you would get those and it was just like, oh my God, yes, this is exactly what I needed today. The thing, if I could correct myself from back in the day, was I would tell myself to not have a bowl of cereal with every meal. That probably could have saved me roughly 20 pounds, but off campus, listen, it's the sub shop and it's the cheeseburger sub.
Undefeated.
Anytime I go back to town, I'm the first stop I make. Never mind going to camp. I can't go to campus first because I might get a ticket for just, driving around campus, which
we're going 5 miles an hour.
Listen, I got invited back one time by whoever, I forget who was running the alumni office, but I remember tweeting at like the Oswego account or something and was just like, hey, I'm going to stop by and visit. Like, hey, come by. We got like a alumni gift back for you. I was like, well, that's cool. Free stuff like that. I got tracked all around campus by some campus police officer, like following me everywhere. And I was like, dude, get off me. So like I parked at like one of the student lots and like hid way in the back there and like did like a little walk around like the campus center or the campus store, see what's going on there. Checked it out, see if I could run an Eddie Gozik. I didn't. And then was like, all right. So I go back and I was fully expecting there to be a ticket on the car, and there wasn't. I was like, oh great. So I walk back to the car, and then I see the cop car driving by and pull into the lot. I was like, ah ha, ha, sucker, I'm already leaving. I get to the alumni office and like didn't see this cop anywhere, which should have been the tip off. I park in the lot, go inside, meet with the people, the alumni staff and everything. And, you know, had a nice talk and it was great. Come back outside, ticket right in the window. And I was like, mother, I was like, okay. So I never tweeted at the SUNY Oswego account faster than I ever did there. I was like, hey, cool. It was very nice to see you guys. Great that you invited me here, but couldn't help but feel like a little bit of entrapment here that I got a ticket within 5 seconds of being at the alumni house. And they were like, oh my God, just throw it out. It's fine. And I was like, not for real. Like, I don't know if that's real. They're like, no, we took care of it already. I was like, thanks, guys. But yeah, so like but yeah, no, Sub Shop is the first stop every time. And my God, man, I love that it's unchanged over time. And
yes,
the key addition, anytime, any sub you get there, get the freaking French fries. The French fries.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do with them. And I don't know what, how, if they do something special with the potato. I don't know. Maybe they buy some like special frozen one. I don't know. I don't care. They're amazing. I don't know what makes them so good, but they're so damn good.
I wonder if they cook them in duck fat.
Listen, if
no
they're doing
way,
that,
that's way too fancy. What are you, crazy? Come on now. They'd charge like $20 for them.
That's true. They would be like $30 fries.
I'd eat them.
Of course I'd eat them.
Yes, you would eat them. Come on.
But duck fat.
I was doing like the like searching to see like if there were any places that were from back in the day that were still open in town, which was a depressing exercise because I was trying to plot out like another visit to go to a game or something, and there's maybe like 2 bars left.
That's about right.
Left over. I think it's like the Brick and the Raven.
Yeah.
I think those are the only 2 that are left. And I saw that there's like a whole ass like music hall out there now that's like up the road from where the Patch used to be, which I'm like, okay. It's like and it looks like this massive like building, and I'm like, did they build more cool stuff like after we left? Like you didn't need to rub it in our face more, but like, geez, guys.
Look, the mayor there, Billy Barlow, is on the ball. I've heard nothing but great things about Barlow and what he's done with the city of Oswego. So
that's awesome. That's great to hear. And like a buddy of mine's band is playing out there soon. I had to try to like come up with some tips to like places to go, but now I'm just like, I don't know, go to the Sub Shop, go to the Raven, go to the Brick, and anywhere else is up for grabs. I feel bad that Alex is left out of this conversation.
Well, we're
gonna get to her. We're gonna get to her.
We'll get to her. Hang tight.
Kevin's the only one who knows Cortland anyway, so it doesn't matter.
All I know is that when I've gone back up to Cortland since graduating, nobody's given me a ticket. So
wow,
you're coming out way ahead.
They like him. They like her better than you.
That's listen. The list of people that like me is very short, so it's fine.
So we were all big, well, except for Joe. We were all big chicken patty fans, like on campus. We would go to the dining hall on Chicken Patty Day, and it would be a big thing. But was there any? Where was your go-to on campus at Cortland, like in terms of lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever?
How do I phrase this? My wallet. I would.
Okay.
I would order in a lot because for as much as, and I say this with my whole heart, for as much as I love Cortland to death, they lacked in food. They lacked in quantity and quality of food. And that's from being at a dining hall at Cortland, like in the actual institution. It was called New Big. I still have a burn on my arm from one of the bagel trays. It was not good. Like nothing about the experience of food there was good. Working, eating, observing, just no.
Wow. Okay.
The one redeeming place was
a lovely place.
Yeah, right. No, the food was not it. But the one redeeming place was this place called Hilltop, and they had sushi that was actually pretty good. And I'm a big sushi person, so I was like, when I don't want to spend my own money as a broke college kid, I'm just gonna go there. But it wasn't even like meal swipes; it was dining dollars, which I'm very upset. So I was back at Cortland this past weekend to visit some friends. And they told me that they could get me food now without, paying for it. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said that included in their meal plan now is an option to switch out meals for dining dollars. So basically, the actual dining halls are empty now because everybody switches out the meal plans to go get Hilltop or, like Chicken Bap or whatever the other places are that require, actual money. But now they're switching it out. I was like, why couldn't they have done this a year ago when I was still there and starving? Like
all these places serve take the dining dollars? Like all the restaurants in town take the dining dollars?
They used to. I used to go to Applebee's and they would take my dining dollars, and this place called
Oswego never did that.
Bricks. And Bricks was, yeah, but I think you guys mentioned Bricks. I wasn't sure if it was the same.
No.
No, this was a bar called The Brick.
Yeah.
There was a bar within Bricks, but
Oh, there you go. So
I'm pretty sure some of the bars in Cortland like have been shut down or their liquor license has been taken away, stuff like that.
sounds about right.
The Stone Lounge, I think, for
Yes.
one. Yeah.
They're not having a great time.
No.
There.
Cortland sounds like a dump, man. Like what?
My dump.
How was it fun? Like I don't understand.
Listen, the greatest people in my life, outside of a couple friends that I still have from high school, have come from there. Like the people are unmatched, phenomenal people that I've met, and that's faculty and student inclusive. Everybody was so on my side with every single thing I did there. Yeah, I have nothing but good things to say, minus the food.
No one fed you. Like, I mean, part of the college experience is eating.
She didn't eat. She just didn't eat.
She just didn't eat. Yeah, I mean, they starved her.
Okay.
Stayed skinny. That's how she stayed skinny. She didn't eat.
The freshman 15 did not happen, but not intentionally. It was just, not available.
just natural starvation by the university. That's I get it.
It's part of the
school here. We're gonna starve you.
I actually, Cortland was where I had one of my funniest broadcasting moments. Was calling a game down there, and you know how I think you guys all know like the setup. You're basically on the concourse inside where the rink is in Cortland. And where we set up our table, and this is myself and Dom Izzo doing the call in the game, and I was doing play-by-play for the first and third periods that night. So we're set up, and we're basically almost right behind the Oswego bench, and Oswego scores like maybe a minute and a half into the game, and there's hardly anybody in there because everybody's going to the basketball game right next door. Which we walk into the building, we're like, wow, a lot of people going to be here tonight. No, they're all going to the gym, and we're going to the rink. So we get set up, and I do the goal call, and he scores, and then I realized very quickly my voice was echoing through the entire rink. Half the Oswego benches, they're celebrating, and then they turn around and looked at me like, all right, man, cool, this is awesome. And I'm like, sorry. The Cortland bench is like staring daggers at me. I'm like, dude, like, what do you want? Like, get some fans, man. Like, this is what do you want from me? Like, it's gonna be like this all night if you don't stop us. So yeah, it was
never a fun experience to play Oswego. I will give you guys that. Obviously, you got a great hockey team, and every time you would come in, there would be Oswego fans in the building, and I'd always think to myself, where, like, they're just popping out of the woodworks. I mean, honestly, it was worse than Blackhawks fans in like 2015. I mean, they just popped out of nowhere. And
that's the highest compliment possible.
They're all over the place. They're not that far away. They're all over. A lot of them live in Syracuse. Like myself.
And I'll never forget. It wasn't Oswego. It was Fredonia. It was the first playoff game that I covered for Cortland, and I did like this segment right beforehand that I had come up with just to kind of introduce the game. I went live on Instagram, and I noticed that a lot of people from Fredonia, or like people like students who went there, or like members of their hockey team, were watching. And I found that very off-putting, because why would the other team be watching me? Like, they didn't even know I existed before that night, probably. So why are you watching Cortland Hockey's live Instagram? We get to, I think, the end of the second period, and I'm waiting, for whoever it was that I was interviewing. And one of their players, their backup goalie, walks by and goes, "Nice interview," or something like that, like something to that effect. And it was very clearly, just mocking the fact that I was doing it. And the guy standing next to me, the player that I was interviewing, goes, "You're the backup, like, shut the," and I this is
nice.
like and we ended up winning. We beat them like 5-1. And so at the end of the third, like end of regulation, the guys are walking by, and I stood there, and I held the mic out, and I was like, "Does anybody want an interview? Anybody?" interview. It was so fun. They were so mad. I honestly thought they were going to attack me at the end of the game.
Nobody likes Fredonia anyway.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of
true.
nowhere. It's like
Ugh.
halfway to Cleveland. No one likes Fredonia.
See, that's a good.
Me and
that's a
John
good-
Quantz left the banner in Cortland once.
I was gonna say, so WNYO, our student radio station, there's 2 banners that we left behind in Cortland. I know Jason and we did it one year. We went down because
I did it twice.
twice.
Great.
So we put the banner on the balcony, so we couldn't see it. It was out of our sight. So we taped it up there, the NYO banner, and we did the game. And then we were like, "Are they going to leave us here? Like, oh, let's pack up and get out of here." So we didn't realize until basically the bus got to Oswego that we're like, "Oh, we forgot the banner." So we made some calls to, I think Fran Aaliyah was there way back when. So he's been the SID at Cortland for forever.
I think edited some of my articles. Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Fran, I think it was Fran we reached out to, and we were like, "Do you see this banner?" And they're like, "No, it's not here."
It's in some
And then-
student's dorm room already.
Yeah. But then Jason, you and John Quantz the following year went down to Cortland, and you guys did it again. You guys
Back
left the
to back
banner
years,
there.
baby. That's right.
This is why Dom and I didn't have a banner to bring with us anywhere.
That's right. Kevin and I left it twice. Kevin and I left it one year, and then me and John Quantz left it another. And it was only Cortland. Every other place I
Yeah.
remember to take it from. It was only Cortland.
Joe, that's why there was nothing left in the budget for another banner. So
Listen, we had to spend our budget getting having like the Plattsburgh people trying to charge us $250 to use a line the day of Game 3 of the SUNY Finals in 2002, and we were like, "Yeah, send us the bill, creeps. Get lost." They never sent a bill. So yeah. But they were day 3 after being there for games 1 and 2. They're just like, "Oh, it's gonna be like $250 for the line." It's like, you guys let us broadcast the first 2 games. Like, what's your deal, man? They're just like, "Well, we thought we'd catch you now." I'm like, "Yeah, you thought there'd be a game 3. I bet."
Oh, Plattsburgh.
That's a whole other podcast waiting to happen.
Yeah, it is.
That's 100%.
I think so. So Alex, we're writing it down. Edmonton and Dallas. Joe, we got Vegas and Dallas. Dallas is the number 2. So we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And I don't know. I'm not holding out much hope for the Rangers this year, but we'll see. See what happens.
But we'll keep those predictions where we keep our notes and our predictions on our board.
Don't make me hopeless before the season even starts.
All right.
I mean, Joe said they're a 100-point team.
Yeah.
He did.
I mean, listen, the last time I had predictions held against me, it was when they asked us for cup picks in 2014 at NBC. This before the season, like the opening day of the season. And I go, I don't know. I'm just looking at the rosters. I was like, I don't know. Kings are going to be good again, so I'll pick the Kings. And I was like, about the Rangers. I was like, yeah, Kings will beat the Rangers in 7 games in the cup final in 2013, before the 13-14 season. The first comment on the post was, "You should be fired for this." And I go, well, that's heavy. Fast forward to the end of the year, the Kings beat the Rangers in 6
It's
games.
your fault.
Yep.
And I was like, well, how about that? And I went back and go, yeah, how about that? And then I wasn't hired back by NBC after that season. So you know what? Listen, everybody got what they wanted. I got the cup final prediction correct. That guy got to see me no longer work for NBC. So it made everybody happy.
Win-win. Well, Joe and Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure here on our 23rd episode of Throwing Bagels Podcast. We appreciate your time, guys.
Thankful to be here.
Yeah, always happy to be here with you guys. It's a throwback to the old days.
All right. Well, that was Alex Russo, a legend at Cortland State University, and Laker legend Joe Yerdon joined us. That was wonderful. They had some great insight as to what the Rangers, Islanders, and Sabres and that Devils team that they both like are going to do this season. I guess you can't really disagree with their list, though.
No, that list. I mean, I hate to say it, but the Devils are just they're built up right now, and they're young and they're talented, and I'd be shocked if they didn't win the Metro Division, but we'll see what happens. That's why you play the games. But I mean, the Metro Division in general is going to be a tough division. Pittsburgh's still there. So they're not going anywhere. As long as Crosby's around, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And like they both said, Sabres are up and coming, and the Islanders are the Islanders.
Let's segue seamlessly. So there are some really cool, funny things that happened over the weekend. I don't know if you guys watch the NFL. I'm sure you do. But the Seahawks and Lions game, there was a really funny instance that occurred. So Geno Smith gets called for intentional grounding. So like any other player will go up to the referee and start wondering, like, what are you doing? Why are you calling that? The referee turned his microphone on and said, I'm talking to America here. And it was over a live microphone.
That's hilarious. I got to look that up.
So that was on national television. And it was quite funny. But the second funniest thing, Jay, I think we were talking about it just a few minutes ago off air, was the Kelsey touchdown for Ian Eagle's call.
Just classic. Find a blank space, like perfect. He couldn't have just said it any better. It was so seamless. Like I didn't even see the game, and you just hear it and you're like, and then you watch the replay of it and you're like, oh, and then you don't even know what's going on. If you don't even know the whole insinuation of it, you're like, and then you find out, you're like, oh, that makes total sense. I get it now. That's really good.
And for those that don't know, there's a rumor that Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey of the Chiefs is hanging out with Taylor Swift. So, Swifties, go easy on him. Yeah. All right. She might just put out a whole album about the Chiefs and
they break
Kelsey,
up. Oh my God.
If they break up. Yeah, right. I mean, it's gonna be crazy. I think Ian Eagle referred to one of the songs in his call for the touchdown that Jason, there I go again, Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey, for Chiefs. So that was seamless. Like Ian Eagle's just a polished, amazing professional broadcaster.
So good.
And Syracuse alum. Just fantastic.
This is actually big, guys. This is our last podcast before the newly resurrected Oswego School of Communications Alumni Dinner, or Communications Studies Alumni Dinner, I believe it's officially called.
In fancy Sheldon Hall. I've never been in Sheldon Hall before.
And
me neither.
What that will mean, guys, it'll be the first time in who knows how long that the three of us have been together in the same place, in the same room.
That's true.
10 years.
It's been 10 years.
Least, yeah.
Or 11 years. What did I send you guys yesterday?
12
years.
12
years.
Like
2011.
Jeez.
Yeah. I know.
So,
my kid was 3.
We're very much looking forward to that. We got to get some pictures of us together so we can put them on the website.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a live show.
Yeah, and listen, NYO, we're coming for you.
Yeah,
we're coming in there. We're gonna raid your studio. We're gonna do a show from there. Okay,
we're gonna stream a live show.
That's right.
We're not going to mingle with other alumni or students. We're just going to go right to NYO, shut the door.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's literally the only reason I'm going up, right? I mean, I thought that's what was it.
Work on equipment that I never thought I'd ever work on before in college.
Oh man!
Our next guest right after the comm dinner,
Dr. Jennifer Knapp, who's the dean of the Oswego School of Communication, Media, and the Arts.
Recap the dinner a little bit, so it'll be great.
Yeah,
very exciting. Yeah.
So, Dr. Knapp coming up in a couple of weeks. We have a blog next week. I don't know what we're doing next week.
I think.
If you want. All right, we're volunteering you, Chris.
Or mine.
It's
your
turn.
I didn't do one last time, but
we'll figure that out. But take care. Thank you again for listening. And keep tabs on us online, throwingbagels.com. Email us, throwingbagelspodcast@gmail.com. And that's it.
Cool.
Chris,
Kevin,
I bid you adieu. We'll see you later. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Indeed.
Jason,
yes.
We will see you.
See you in a week and a half.
In a week and a half. Counting down the days.
Looking forward to it.
This will be good. See ya.
Laker legend.